Hi guys, and welcome to a review. This time the Usicon OVA, or also known as the Reecho OVA, or also known as the new or updated version of the Reecho SG01. It's an earphone, the SG01, that I particularly liked, and this one is apparently an updated version over that one. It's using an updated version according to the information I was able to ascertain, and the specs kind of maintain themselves more or less the same. 32 ohm impedance. It's got the same or an updated graphene diaphragm driver with an N52 magnet system. And well, yeah, this is the box. Basically, they've maintained the same thing as was already the case in the SG01. Decent enough presentation. The IEMs came there. The cable is decent enough. Plenty tips, which was already the case in the original, or the first version of the SG01. It brings these tips which look a lot like the BGVP or the KBER's 07 series tips. Actually, I'm using them on the actual earphone itself. So yeah, in terms of presentation and accessories and everything, it's fine. It's I mean, for the $50 odd, $52 more or less that you can get it for, I think it's perfectly acceptable, and I mean, at least the tips are of a nice quality. I myself use these tips quite often. Firstly, because they fit me very nicely, and then they match the majority of the IEMs I have also quite nicely. Anyway, on to what we want to know, which is what is the IEM like. Let me choose here both the same side. Okay, so original SG01 OVA. Okay, it's got this purplish kind of moondrop starfield color. Beautiful IEM. In all honesty, beautiful. It's got one. Let me see if I could show you. It's got a vent hole over there and a vent hole over there. So 1, 2. And I mean, looking at it quite carefully and extensively, shell wise, it's exactly the same thing. The only difference, and this is where I think we can basically say that yes, it does make sense that the driver has changed, is here. Okay, let's see if I can hold this in a way that I can show you. Okay, so the original one has got this kind of goldish metal mesh, which has got some sort of a filter. Okay, and this one has got this more normal, and it's absolutely the same. No difference. Well, no difference in no mesh behind it. Nothing. It's just you can see basically inside. Let's put it that way. Is this enough to confirm that the drivers have changed? Well, I guess not. But the reality is this. Let me just put the tips back on. But the reality is this, and I don't know if it's just me, or if well, I guess when other reviewers also get to test them, they might confirm what I'm saying, or not confirm, or I don't know. Graph wise, I'll show it to you now. Graph wise, they graph almost identical. Okay, let me just show it to you. So graphically, okay, here we go. So the red line is the SG01, the blue line is the OVA. And the difference, and I'm using here a scale that each line or each block corresponds to 2 dBs. So we're talking about a 1 dB difference, 2 dBs up top. Although it's difficult to say that there's really any that this information is correct because of the coupler, but there's roughly a 1 dB difference. Is it? Can you hear it, or is 1 dB is so small to notice that it's basically channel imbalances. Let's put it that way. But as I was saying, what I did notice was the sound seems quicker. The way the bass impacts, the way the mids are, everything just seems cleaner, quicker. Again, is it down to the fact that they've just changed the filter on the nozzle for a more porous one, while this one's got less, it seems less porous, and it's got some sort of a material? Is that the difference? Has the driver changed or not? Well, I don't know, and I guess only Reecho can tell us. As you can see, I'm obviously not using the standard cable. I'm using an XI and HS cable. I'm a big fan of those cables, and I also tried the cables that I just recently got from Hakogai, the TC cables, the hybrid ones with the different options for tips. But I don't know, I just like this particular cable in terms of its look. In terms of performance, it was the same, and that's why it's on here. Fit is spot on in my ears, no issues. It sits into my ears perfectly. Noise isolation is pretty decent. It's non-fatiguing. The shell doesn't weigh a lot. Honestly, in that aspect, I've got absolutely nothing to say. In terms of what I heard, or what I used to test it with, I used my DX Pro for the majority of the listening, and I also used this little puppy here. Some might know what it is. Focus. Creative. The SXFI dongle, and it uses an AKM DAC inside, and what I can say is, what a pleasant surprise. Really, really nice dongle. If you have the opportunity to try it, give it a try. I think you will be impressed, and it's not in terms of price, it's not out of context. I got this particular one for $89, so it's got a good price, and the sound is what really impressed me. Anyway, that's out of the way there. Oh, and I forgot to mention as well, brings this case, which is nice little case. In terms of sound, what does the OVA, and I'm going to call it OVA from now on, sound like? Okay, you can see I've got a couple of IEMs behind there. There's just one IEM that I was going to include, but then I decided not to include it, which is the Moondrop Chew. And I've tried to go and fetch IEMs which I've always liked at this price range, and put in some newer ones, and try to better get or better transmit what the sound of the OVA is like. Okay, so I've got the KZ EDA, and this is the balanced version, which for me is the one that makes the most sense. The good old Blonde 03 HC Sound Heart Mirror. This is the special edition of the Aria. Okay, and lastly the Olina. All right, this is obviously the original SG01. If you might recall, or if you go see the original review I did of the SG01, the SG01, I said, was kind of like an offspring of the Blonde and of the HC Sound Heart Mirror. And why did I say that? Well, because it had a lot of the characteristics that the HC Sound has, but similarly it also had a lot of the characteristics that the Blonde also had. I'll show you here against the Blonde first. Okay, so that's, again, blue is the bluish line is the OVA, and the purplish line is the Blonde. And you can see from up to about 2Ks roughly, they're about the same. And then it's just a question of more energy on the OVA and then the rest also very, very similar. What this transmits to in terms of sound is you have a more open sound in the over. It can also mean that it can more quickly be more aggressive, more sibilant, as opposed to the sound of the blonde, which is more organic sounding. Oops, more organic sounding, more. The blonde has just got this nice warm texture to it. The way that the mid bass is done, it just lends, it just lends the way it, I think personally, I think it just bleeds nicely into the mids, and it just makes the mid sound very warm, very, very full, very engaging, makes it very fun, and that's why people like the blonde. The reality is that, love it or hate it, we have to admit that the blonde was, I guess, well tuned, by luck or not by luck, but there's a reason why it sold so many. And that's basically it. It's just very nice, everything is just very, very, even the treble, which might not be exactly the most correct sounding treble, it's actually fine. It's nothing that you could consider aggressive, especially at the price that you can get the 03 right now. I mean, right now, you can get the 03 at around $27. Anyway, so this is compared to the blonde. Compared to the HD sounds, that's the graph. Obviously, you can definitely see that's a massive advantage of the over, in terms of the bass. So below 200 hertz, it's a monster in terms of quantity. Yes, it does make it more colored, and then it will all depend on what you like listening or what you want. And then, although you see that there's less energy, obviously, in the HD sound, the reality is when you listen to the HD sound and the over, the HD sound just sounds even more cleaner, even more detailed. And then I guess that's the main characteristic, the main go-to characteristic of the HD sound. The HD sound has always been known for being an IEM which is clean. It's very detailed. Is that detail 100% correct, or is it again colored? Look, everyone to its own. Personally, it doesn't offend me. Yes, it can be a little bit colored at times. Yes, it can be too much or excessive. But the truth is, the HD sound does deserve the hype that it gets in terms of being a really, really clean and detailed sounding IEM. And there's a reason why it actually took down the T2, the 10i-Fi T2, which was known for that precise characteristic. And surprisingly, although graphically wise it seems like it's very bass light, it isn't. It's got very good quality bass. It's a CNT driver that they're using, so it's nice, quick, impactful. It's detailed. It's a really nice IEM. So in a nutshell, I've basically already told you what this is about. This is an IEM which has the cleanliness up to a certain point of the HD sound, the detail, the ability to have good detailed retrieval. It's got decent soundstage, decent imaging. Again, please keep in mind always that I'm talking about this price range. Let's not compare things out of context. Could it be better? Obviously it could be better, of course it could, but it's got decent, I would say perhaps the soundstage is better than the imaging, where over there I find the imaging better than the soundstage, for example. And then it's got this energy down low, which comes from, let's say, blonde DNA, and it just marries everything nicely. So I mean, this is a colored IEM, period. It's a V signature. It's a well executed V signature. It's a fun IEM to listen to. It will play most music genres quite well. It will be very satisfying, very engaging. And that's it. I mean, let's not overcomplicate things. That's basically it. Is it an upgrade over the SG01? I don't know. I honestly, like I said, the only thing that I did notice by comparing back and forth the two of them is that this one just seems a tad quicker. That's all. A tad faster. I might for the sake of confirming it. Just change filters on both, on the nozzle, and see if the changing of the filters does lend itself to have as well different results, and by doing that, maybe trying to confirm if the drivers are in fact either the same or an upgrade of one over the other. But to be 100% sincere, and that's what I always try to do in all my reviews, I I don't see the OVA as an upgrade over the SG01 if you have the SG01. If you don't have it and you are looking for something which is fun and engaging, you have $50 to spend, and for some reason you don't want to buy any other IEM, I don't know. I mean, this compared to a Melee is although some will beg to differ, obviously, but this compared to a Melee is more detailed than the Melee. So if you want something which has got a lot of the characteristics of the Melee, so that fast, nice, impactful bass, that will make it very engaging for most music genres, but you want a little bit more detailed up top, definitely this here will be a better option. Okay, so that basically puts these two out of the picture here. This is priced, like I said, around up to about $30. You can get it for like 27, 25 I've seen. The heart mirror around $40, 40 or 44. Okay, so what about the EDA, the ARIA, and the Olina? Well, let's start with the EDA. And the reason why I put the EDA here is, well, first of all, because it's an IEM that is getting a certain amount of traction. And when you see the graph, again, you will understand a lot of things. The bass that on the EDA you have is basically the same that you get on the OVA. It's got all this energy and impactfulness, and it's nice, quick textured. I mean, the KZ driver definitely is an upgrade over the previous CRA driver, which supposedly is the one that's the basis for this. And then up top is where you see some differences. It's not got as much extension past 10, but basically, yeah, well, this area between 5 and 9, it's very similar. And then it's just less energetic at around 2 to 3K. This less energy at 2 to 3K, funny enough, you might think that, oh, okay, well, this will make the EDA sound darker in comparison to the OVA, and the truth is, no, it doesn't. They sound, and especially with what I listen to, they sound very similar, and very few were the songs where I could see the difference between them. Forbidden Fruit from Candice Springs was one of them. I could see more cleanliness, more detail on here than on the EDA. But the song like Sweat from Princess Fraser, the JK Viv remix, they basically the same. That energetic bass that the song has is reproduced so well, yeah, that if there is any deficiency in terms of the mids, between one and the other, or one being more clean or less clean, you don't really notice it. Deja Vu by Will Downing and Avery Sunshine, again, very similar, with the OVA slightly edging out the EDA. So again, what I'm basically trying to say here is that very similar sounding, obviously much better build quality here. Fair enough, you get for $35 you get 3 IEMs. Here you're just getting one. Look, it's a tough one. It's not an easy, I mean, I don't know the money that everyone has and so on and so forth, but what I can say is that there's a lot of similarities between these two. So up to now, I would say that this and this are the most similar. So the blonde, the EDA, and the OVA are the most similar. There's obviously some similarities, although not graphically, but when you listen to it, above 1K with the HD sound. And now is where you enter, well, first of all, IEMs, which are more expensive. The special edition ARIA is around $75, $79, and the Olina $100. And here is where you enter now two more refined, let's put it that way, sound signatures. the idea, well, yeah, again, it's an IM that you either like it or you hate it. I personally find it very, very good. I like it a lot. I like the way it presents its bass. I like the way the mids are done on the aria, and I like that it's got just the right amount of extension up top. Good detailed retrieval, good sound stage. It's a superior IEM to the OVA, in my opinion. The OVA only beats it in terms of being a little bit more energetic in the mid bass, which, you know, if you like EDM and so on and so forth, it could be a reason for you to go for the over the the ARIA Special Edition. I'll just show you a graph here quickly. There we go. So you can see very similar in terms of graphically what the bass is like, but no, you notice that the over's got more quantity, definitely, and then the way that the mids are done and the high frequency and everything similar past 10k if you look, but it just lends things more. It lends things to be more controlled in the aria. Okay, so there's no, at least for me, there's no hint of sibilance in the aria. Sorry, there's no hint of sibilance in the aria, which does occasionally happen. You know, if you really push the volume, and you will, because it's an IM that does invite you to raise the volume, you will reach certain music in certain points where the sibilance here starts to be noticed. Over there, I never really have that issue. I mean, it's you know. So yes, I would say that the aria is a superior IEM to the OVA overall. It's more refined, more polished. And finally, the Olina. And the Olina is not really a comparison, because the Olina is better. Let me just, you know, say that out of the way, get that out of the way straight away. It is a better IEM. But the one thing that you will definitely notice if you listen to the OVA and you listen to the Olina is, yes, this is more polished. I mean, technically, it's super capable, but you also find it thin in comparison to the OVA. The OVA is the base of the OVA is really very engaging. The way they've done it, it's very engaging. It might not be picture perfect correct, but it's super engaging, and you notice it. You notice it. So if you want correctness, definitely go then for the Olina. If you want something more fun, or you just can't reach, your wallet doesn't allow you to reach that far, then the OVA will make sense. Let me just quickly show you the graph. There we go. And again, the blue line maintains itself as the OVA, the green as the Olina, and similar past 10k again, as you can see. And you notice that there's a lot of detail on the OVA. It's just not as polished, let's put it that way. Mids on the Olina are, well, perfect. And then, although, you know, you see like a 2 dB difference in terms of the bass, up to about 3, you know, the sub bass and mid bass up to about 300 hertz, you do notice that the OVA is substantially more energetic. Yes, it is. It's just got more guts, let's put it that way. But in the Olina, there's enough, and it's perfectly matched with its mids, perfectly matched with its highs. It's got absolutely amazing technicalities, like I said before. In terms of its 3D effect, especially, it's one of the things that, even compared to an Oxygen, there's points where it's actually better than the Tanstream Oxygen. So in that aspect, the Olina is a tremendous IEM. I mean, there's really nothing that can be said. It can be, some people might find it a little bit too forward, because of all the amount of energy that it has in standard format. Well, this one isn't standard simply because I've just added the double damper, the dual stock dampers, which just brought down things about a dB and a half too, but just enough for it to be more satisfying for me. But of course, there are people that will like that energy that it has. And yeah, and that's basically it, guys. I mean, like I said, when I heard it the first time, the OVA, I was impressed by the quickness, by how fun it is. And then when I compared it back and forth with the original, yes, I can definitely say that it's there's something there that just makes it sound quicker, more lively. Okay, although graphically, like I showed you, it was basically the same thing. There was no significant difference, so I wouldn't consider it an upgrade unless you don't have it and you like the color scheme, and that's it. Okay, so that's it. As compared to the EDA, yes, there's a lot of similarities here, and I guess the main reason you would go for this over the EDA would be that first of all you have much better quality in terms of build, and there's a little bit more energy there around that 2-3K area, which might, which will lend certain voices and certain stuff, like for example Frank McComb. What you're gonna do, it sounds nicer here than it does on the EDA. It does. The EDA plays it beautifully, but when you compare it back and forth, it does sound better here. And then the blonde and the HD sound they here, just as a reminder that this has got some DNA on those two, got some of its DNA from those two IEMs. And yeah, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. As always, if you like, subscribe, ask questions. I will try my absolute best to answer everybody. And yeah, that's it. Take care. Bye bye.